We are live. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Language Maven, your new online show. I am Eva Arissani. I will be your host for tonight, and I'm so excited to be here with you. This is our very first episode, and I know that it is going to be something amazing, something where you will learn something, and you will also share with us the love for that we have for languages. I am the founder of Transcentral Pty Ltd, and this show is brought to you by Transcentral Pty Ltd. Today, I am not alone. I have two amazing guests with me. But before I introduce the guest, I would like to share something with you. First of all, I'd like to remind you, and I'm sure that you all know that we use languages for so many things. We use languages through our body, right? Yeah, like the body has a language of its own. So you've got that body language, and the body language is very important in every area of our lives. You go to work, you go home, your body will speak for you. You go to a marriage, you go to an event, your body will speak for you. You go to an interview, your body will speak for you. So your body is a way you use to communicate. Then we use words, right? We use gestures, we use signs. So basically, we use language in different ways. We use nonverbal language, we use verbal languages, we communicate also via a text, we can write, so there are so many ways to benefit from language and to use languages. Fun fact, do you know more or less how many languages there are in the world? Do you? Well, I did a little bit of research, and there are more than 7,100 languages spoken in the world. What does that tell you? That languages are a wealth, and it is something that very often we take for granted, and we don't even realize how amazing it is, how important it is. And do you know that Africa is home to approximately 1/3 of the world's languages? And this is based on a Harvard study. What does this tell you? It tells you that Africa on its own is wealthy in terms of languages. I am from Gabon, and in Gabon, there are more than 40 languages, 40 native languages, but French is the official language. I am a permanent resident working and living in South Africa, and South Africa has 11 official languages. So you see, it is, I think, very, very crucial to have a show like the Language Maven to discuss all the topics that are linked to languages, because you will agree with me that language can be related to social construct. Some would even say that language can be related to politics. Some will say that language can be related to economics, and there are so many things that we can link to languages. So that tells us that languages are very, very important, and that languages can be related to many fields, many spheres of life. And today, I have two amazing guests to discuss the topic of the day. And I would like to introduce the first one, a queen. And let me just go through my note. I would like to introduce her very well. And she's a queen coming all the way from Wits, from University of Wits. And her name is Celimpilo Dladla. I hope I pronounced your name properly, Celimpilo. She's laughing. And she is employed as an associate lecturer in translation and interpreting studies at the University of Wits-Witwatersrand. Sorry for the pronunciation, so I would say Wits, okay. In the past 17 years, she worked as a court interpreter, language practitioner, a Nguni language specialist, and she published 3 novels. She has a national diploma in language practice, cum laude, from Durban University of from Durban University of Technology, and honors in translation and interpreting studies from the University of South Africa, and an MA in isiZulu studies from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She's a PhD candidate awaiting examination result at Wits University. And let me introduce you officially, Celimpilo. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. How are you?
I'm good, Eva. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Then our second guest is Romeo Nkoulou Ella. He currently works as stakeholders engagement manager for an international organization based in Pretoria. Before that, he occupied the position of communications manager for the same organization. And before joining them, he worked as business development manager for a Johannesburg-based e-commerce company. And he has been practicing as a freelance conference interpreter for almost 15 years now. Welcome, Romeo.
Thank you, Eva. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much, both of you, for being here tonight. And thank you, everyone who is we've got people watching us. Tangma, hello, please tell us where you are watching from. And thank you so much for being a part of this. Actually, she's also a language practitioner. So I'm quite happy to see her. I'm sure she will have a lot of questions and comments as well. So thank you, dear sister, for watching the show. Okay, so we will go straight to the point because the show is going to last only 30 minutes. And let's go for it. So I guess, she's in New York, watching from New York. Welcome and thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you being here with us. Then, okay, fantastic. So the theme, maybe I should just remind everyone the theme for today is unlocking global growth, the power of language services in expanding business horizons. So obviously we won't be able to discuss this in detail, but we will touch the subject and try to bring some elements of response so that people can also appreciate, comment, and we can all get nuggets of knowledge from this beautiful guest. All right. So let's start with the first question. Let me look at my notes and then we'll go for this. Just a second. All right. So I think everyone watching the show is wondering, okay, so how can we use languages to unlock global growth as a company? And since we are talking, to different audiences, we are talking to companies, but we are also talking to individuals because they are freelancers as well, you see. So the same question will also go for individuals. How can we use languages to unlock global growth as an individual? So maybe ladies first or Romeo first?
You said it, ladies first.
Ladies first. Celimpilo, the floor is yours.
A typical African say men do go first as an African. But anyway, thank you, Eva, and thank you, Romeo. I think that as we live in a world with lots of languages, it's important for all of them to be given a chance in the world. And if I am running a company and then being monolingual, just focusing on one language, what am I saying to those who are not being catered for in the language that I'm using? So I believe it's important for organizations to approach multilingualism, to have a multilingual approach in the running of the business. So what they would do is to translate or to transcreate, to create documents that will be aligned with the languages spoken in each region that they are actually offering the services to. So even as individuals, I think it's important for us to have more than one language, to be multilingual in our approach to the things that we do, the people we interact with, and try to at least learn more languages so we can engage with more people. So a multilingual approach for me is the best way. I know that here in South Africa, we even have the Use of Official Languages Acts from the government of 2012, which actually requires that government organizations, departments and so forth have language services among them, or they have language departments in them. So it goes so far as that those that don't have language services should account and explain to the PENSAL why they don't have those services in their departments. I think the reason behind that is to ensure that government services are offered in all official languages of the country. So I believe that even in business, if we're to adopt the same approach, we will be able to capture more people, to grasp more people, and to be able to interact with more people. Yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more. Using languages strategically can be it can be a very powerful tool for an organization, especially for the growth of the company. Like you rightfully say, Celimpilo, the localization of products as a company and of your services, whether you have physical products or you are providing services, it's still applicable. It's critical. The fact that you are able to translate your products, your services, your marketing materials into multiple languages allows you to cater for different markets. I'll give you the example of the organization that I work for. It's a Pan-African organization. It's a member-based organization. We have currently 42 members scattered across the continent. And the fact that in 2016, we established a language department has allowed us to grow exponentially as an organization and reaching other parts of Africa. Because as you know, there's different official languages spoken across the continent. But before we established the language department, we were able to reach only the Anglophone a part of the continent. We could not go into Francophone Africa. We could not go into Lusophone Africa. And we could not even cater for North Africa, which is majority Arabic. So the strategic use of languages and creating structures within your organization ensures that you are offering something that resonates with your target audiences, and that increases, of course, your likelihood of reaching the different regions. Maybe another aspect that I can mention is that, with the creation or the establishment of this language department within the organization, we, as the secretariat, which coordinates the activities of the organization, we've become more mindful of the cultural differences that exist across our membership. So we no longer have this, if you want, one-track minded approach to the way that we provide our services. We now adapt our communication strategies to the specific market that we are looking at. So being respectful, being culturally sensitive has allowed us to enhance our brand as an organization, and to be recognized as a truly continental organization.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Wow. It's amazing. I love what you said, and I agree completely with you, because with languages comes a lot. Like, languages are completely linked to culture. I mean, we cannot talk about languages without taking into account the cultural aspect of that language. You see, and that's why when you learn a language, you must learn it, but you must also learn the culture of that language, how we greet, how we, how people live in that country. So I agree with you completely that localization of products is critical, that it is very critical to have a language service department, or to have language services that will provide your company with the language services that they need. So thank you both for that. The second question that I think people will probably be wondering is, okay, you've heard of corporate language, right? And I would like to ask you, how can corporate language affect a company's growth? And I'm sure that a lot of individuals do not understand what is corporate language, especially freelancers. So can you quickly help us understand that, please?
If I can jump in first, Eva, I think corporate language has more to do with a company's image than the actual linguistics. I think it generally has to do with the specific communication style, the terminology, the vocabulary that a company uses in its internal and external communications. So that includes the language that you use in official documents, in your marketing materials. There's always a specific tone that is associated to that specific company, even in the way that you communicate with your employees and in your customer interactions and etc. McDonald's, for example, will have a specific, more fun, inclined type of language when it talks to its customers. If you are an international organization such as us, we will have a slightly, not a slightly, but a lot more serious type of communications or tone to the communications that we use externally. So the corporate language essentially is part of the company's identity, and it plays a significant role in shaping its culture, its reputation. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
so I wanted just a last point I wanted to mention is that it's something that affects, as I said at the beginning, also the brand and the image of the organization and the perception that people have of it. There's been many examples where organizations have been, I would say, not very strategic in the way that they've utilized their external communications. For example, if you are addressing a people about a sensitive issues, you need to adjust your corporate language to such a way that you will reach the PR target that you're trying to reach. So a company, or the language that a company uses in its branding, for example, or in public relations, can influence how people perceive that company. So that's why I was saying at the beginning that it has a lot to do with the image of the company, and even though it's not strictly linguistics, but it plays a role. The linguistics plays a role in the way that you craft your message, especially the outward going message.
Thank you very much, Romeo. Celimpilo, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of it in terms of translation,
Mm-hmm.
how it's important for translators to understand the organizations that they are translating for, and the branding their image, as Romeo was mentioned a minute ago. I'm thinking that it's important for translators to be fully aware of this, so that they can reach the target market that the company aimed that their document should reach. Because now, if a translator translates in a certain way, which is not associated, or which does not really convey the message the way that that the organization meant to, then now that's a problem. So the purpose of the translation will not be met. So it's important for translators to fully understand the house style of each organization that they are translating for.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If I
Mm-hmm.
can just jump right in, I think you make you touch on something that's very sensitive and quite important, especially for us as international organizations. You know, we've been told internally many times that, well, you can use machine translation. You don't necessarily need to use an expert translator. They cost a lot of money and etc. And often the people who are not of that field don't fully appreciate the cultural element and the human component in the process of translating, and how that makes a difference between simply taking words and putting them in a different language and actually carrying with the translation the cultural components and the unwritten message that was part of the original documents, and that you need to basically the spirit of the original message. That is something that you will not get from machine translation. You can only get from human translation. So that element is quite important.
Thank you very much, Romeo. And thank you both, because you touch on something that is very, very, very important and crucial. And we want the message to get across, because nowadays we are in the fourth industrial revolution, isn't it? So technologies are developing at a very fast pace. And we are talking about AIs, in different fields of the world, different fields, different industries, different sectors. But now, in terms of translation and interpretation, I agree with you that AIs will not necessarily understand the cultural nuances or understand the corporate language of a company, or understand that maybe you need to reach a certain audience, and it is very, 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 very important that companies and thank you, Claude Christel, for your comments and for being with us. It is important for companies to know that, yes, there are AIs, but they still need seasoned translators and interpreters to make sure that the translation process and the interpretation process is done smoothly and professionally. So, and we have, yes, machine can help. Thank you, Tangma, but they can never replace humans. And we all agree on that. It's really, really true. So they help because now we can translate maybe faster than before, but at the same time, it depends on the type of documents. You will all agree with me that if you have a specialized translation or a literary translation, for example, and it's a very good example because Romeo here and myself and Celimpilo, we've all done literary translations, and it takes a lot. So you cannot just use an AI to do that. You see, you need to, I always say that a good translator must be a good writer. And AIs are not writers. They can't be, because writing demands, it requires feelings, emotions, certain human traits that AIs will not have. Okay, so this is a very interesting point, but let's move on to the next question, because otherwise we will run out of time. And actually, you started with translation and interpretation services, and the next question is about that. So translation and interpretation services are at the center of global expansion. We all agree on that. How can a company make the most of those services? And I think it is a very relevant question, because some companies or some departments of the government do not know how to make the most of it. For example, and I think Celimpilo, maybe you've also experienced that. They will tell you that we want to use the cheapest quote. When you go for tenders, they will say the cheapest quote will be the one we will choose. But unfortunately, in the market at the moment, there are companies who are run as a business. So it means that the more businesses we get, the better. We get more money. But we forget that translation is a profession, and it is something that many people do with passion and with an objective. And this is why I started Transcentral Pty Ltd, because I want to go back to the basics. I want the translators I work with and myself to be able to assist clients and give them the best quality, at a very affordable price, but making sure that the message that they want to communicate goes through, you see? So, what do you think?
I'm thinking about the quality of the translators that companies employ or appoint for projects, so that it's quite important for them to employ those who are qualified, who are experienced, who knows the ins and outs of translation, knowing that there are even specialized types of translation which really demand a lot from the translators, even if you are very experienced or educated in translation, but it demands a lot from you. So now, if you take a person who does not have much experience and exposure to translation, then it can lead to a product of a very less quality. So I think it's important for translators to be trained, so that they can be able to produce work of a high quality, applying all the theories that they would have learned and with much practice that they would have been through before receiving their qualifications. So I think it's quite important for companies to understand that translation is a profession, as you said, and treat it just like any other profession, and not think that translators and interpreters are just people who are bilingual or multilingual, but to understand that behind that bilingualism, there is also a special skill, a science, which goes into the production of that translation or that interpretation, which is required at that time. So I really think that organizations, companies, and whoever employs translators and interpreters should really focus on the quality of the work that they need. Because I mean, I'm thinking that translators need to achieve equivalence at the level of at the text level, and text, and also the textual level. So now, if you don't have experience or haven't been trained in translation and interpreting, you won't even know how to do that. You'll just go for word translation, which doesn't always work. So it's quite important for translators to be treated as the experts that they are.
Thank
Ab-
you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes, Romeo.
Absolutely. I always say to my colleagues here that, or to other clients, I always tell them that the way you select your translators and interpreters, the way you choose them, it says a lot about how much you value your stakeholders and your clients. Because for a lot of companies, it's a box ticking exercise. We have an organization, we have a meeting, or we are required to have French and Portuguese interpreters. So let's just put bodies into interpretation booths, and they tick the box. Ultimately, the purpose of that meeting is not achieved, at least not for the people who depend on interpretation to understand and to contribute to the meeting. So it's truly a reflection of how much you care about your stakeholders and your clients. If you take any bilingual person and you assume that because they speak the language, they can be a translator, it shows that you don't really care about the message that your stakeholders and your clients are getting. So one of the key advice I will give to any company or any organization that works with multilingual customers or stakeholders would be, I think if you can afford it, you should have at least one person in-house who is responsible for quality assurance for all the language services. If you have three languages, if you have three working languages, you should have three of them. Because as much as you have interpreters and translators, it's difficult to find people who are specialized in your field and use the same ones continuously, because you also have your procurement constraints and etc. So if you have that structure internally for quality assurance, it allows you to guide the freelancers that you are using on a short-term basis, to share terminology with them, to get them accustomed to the jargon of your organization and your field. And over time, they become the experts that you want them to be, and your message becomes more accurate.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's both of you. This is such an interesting conversation, and yet we've come to the end. It's almost 6:30, and I don't want this show to take too long. So I think that we will continue that conversation some other time, but I would like to give you both a minute to give advice to companies, freelancers, and people who would like to become language practitioners. Because a lot of people approach me saying that they would like to become translators, interpreters. What can they do? Where do they start? And you know, sometimes it's people who already have a degree, maybe in economics or in politics, and they want to, change their specialization. So, what can you tell those people? Romeo, we start with you.
I think for anyone, irrespective of which field you operate in, I think an additional language is always an incredible asset to have. It diversifies you as an individual. It makes you more versatile. It makes you more adaptable, and it opens up your mind to different ways of thinking, because with the language, we say that at the beginning, comes a culture. So by learning a new language, you learn a new culture, and professionally, it gives you a plus. At the end of the day, an engineer or two, if you have two engineers in front of you, one speaks three languages and the other one only speaks one, the one with three languages is more likely to be more successful. So I'll absolutely recommend to anyone that irrespective of the field that you're in, an additional language is always an additional asset.
Thank you very much, Romeo. Thank you. Anything else for companies, maybe?
For
Any
com-
advice for companies?
for companies, I would say that by implementing a language focused strategy, your company can unlock new growth opportunities that you don't even begin to imagine. You can expand your presence in global markets, but as you do that, it's essential to remain agile and adaptable, because each market may present unique challenges and opportunities that are linked to the language that is spoken in that market.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Romeo. Celimpilo?
It's been said so many times, become a cliche, that Nelson Mandela said, if you speak to a person in their language, you speak through their hearts, actually. So I'm thinking
Exactly.
about businesses to start there, that I think it's important for them to understand that and actually implement it by speaking to people in their languages, by even in their marketing, that they should use languages that are really spoken by the people that they are targeting. So if they, like Romeo said, if you can afford this, at least have a language specialist in the organization. I think it's important for those who can afford to actually have language units in their organizations, and those who can't, to actually employ qualified, or rather to appoint qualified language specialists for each project that they have. If they want to reach out to a large audience, I think it's important for them to approach the multilingual routes and translate documents, make them available in various languages. Then when it comes to individuals, I think if you have a passion for languages, like I do, it's very important, or it would do you good to go and study languages as well, in addition to what you've already studied, your speciality. And then that way, you can specialize as a translator for that particular field. We are really short of translators who specialize in South Africa. We need those who can specialize in scientific fields. So if we can have people who are already specializing, like maybe if you're in engineering, then you can if you study languages or translation and interpreting studies, then you can actually be the one who can translate documents that have to do with engineering. You can also assist lexicographers in developing, in creating dictionaries in different languages. You can assist even in terminology, in developing terminologies in different languages. So if you're really specializing in one field, and then you go and study languages or translation interpreting studies, you can actually become an asset, and you can provide more than you already are right now. So there is room for freelance. There is work that needs to be done, but it can only be done by those who are fully dedicated and passionate about languages and providing services to people in their own languages. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's just amazing. I think you all agree with me that this show is amazing. I think we've been waiting for something like that. And, I have to say thank you, Romeo. Thank you, Celimpilo, because the language maven was in my head and in my heart for many months. And it took me a lot of months to decide that, okay, that's enough. I should take this idea from my heart and from my head and just go with it. And today, thanks to you, thanks to all the people watching now, the Language Maven is here. And we've got more people coming. Hi, Mustafa. Hello. So thank you so much, because this is the reason why we started Transcentral Pty Limited, because I had a vision that I would like to offer language services to people, to individuals, to companies all around the world, so that we can together manage to communicate their message, but the right way, you see, with passion, with professionalism, and at an affordable rate. But I want companies, freelancers, the government, and anyone who is watching to understand that if you want to grow globally, if you want to expand your horizons, you need to work with professionals. You need to understand that you cannot just leave translations to the last minute. And I've been in the industry for more than 15 years. And I'm still appalled to see that sometimes I will be contacted like 2 days before a meeting, 2 days before a meeting. And then I would have to translate documents, in 2 days. I mean, yes, we can do it, but it's not the right way. And that's because we do not understand the value of languages. We do not understand the cultural aspect behind languages. We do not understand that translations, thank you, Caroline. Hello. Thank you for joining us. People don't always understand. And I like what Romeo said earlier, that, if you respect your stakeholders, if you respect the member states you work with, if you respect the delegates you work with, then you will put an extra effort to make sure that their documents are translated, like you said, Celimpilo, the way they speak, in the language they speak, and properly done in a professional way. And that will be done irrespective of how much it costs. And, very often I'm very saddened to hear people say, no, but translations are too expensive. Excuse me? Hello? When you go to see a lawyer, and the lawyer will tell you, my consultation is like 10,000 Rand an hour, will you be surprised or shocked? No, because we know that lawyers are expensive because of what they do. If you go see a specialist, a doctor, a surgeon, and they tell you that, for example, for that surgery, it will cost you 30,000, you will not scream, because you will know that, yes, it is something very important. Well, let me tell you that the world wouldn't be where it is now if it was not for interpreters and translators, because they've been at the heart of so many events that we don't even know about. So I would like you to understand that translation, interpretation is a profession. And as such, it should be seen as something that is a crucial skill. It is a critical skill that needs to be understood properly. And there are not so many professional interpreters and translators. But I will stop here for today because we've gone beyond the time. I would like to thank Romeo. Thank you, Romeo, for your time. Thank you, Celimpilo, for your time
My
as
pleasure.
well. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's a mind opener. Well, I'm glad, because it's supposed to be a mind opener. And I'm happy to tell you that the Language Maven is here to stay. So tune in. The next episode will be very soon. It will be announced, and it will be streamed live on the same Facebook page and the same LinkedIn page. Thank you very much, everyone. I would say in French, bonne soirée. Have a lovely evening. Celimpilo, how would you say have a good evening in your language?
Nilale kahle. But actually, that means good night, though. We just saying
Okay.
sale kahle if I were to be leaving. So I'll say sale kahle because I'm leaving. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And Romeo, I know that you are from a tribe called Fa in Gabon, isn't it? How do you say have a good evening in Fa?
Mbabalu.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So, well, I'm sorry. I am from an ethnic group called Omiene, but unfortunately, I didn't learn the language. We have, thank you, Caroline, Joni Jema in Swahili. Fantastic. You see, we are multilingual here. So I would just say, bonne soirée, have a good evening, and thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Until then, keep well. God bless you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Please share, share, share. Oh, yes, in Spanish, muchas gracias. Please share and let's share our love and passion for languages with the people around us. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.